Today I'm doing a vinyl review slash unboxing of a brand new record. Well, it actually came out a couple of weeks ago on the 15th of September. And the name of this group is Antibalas. And this is an album they did called Where the Gods Are in Peace. I first heard about this group from my father, who recommended their last CD to me. They are a Brooklyn-based group who are sort of modeled around Fela Kuti's Africa 70. And my friend Henry, shout out to you, Henry, talk a lot about Fela Kuti. He really broadened my knowledge on him. And these Afro, funk, jazz, rock ensembles always interest me. When I first heard them, they also reminded me of another group that I love called Mandrel, who were introduced to me again by my father, and who Henrique also talked to me a lot about their origins. And there's a little sticker on top of this. Your favorite band's favorite band is back. An Afro-Western futurist epic of displacement, exploitation, and the path to harmony. Their most ambitious album to date. Includes MP3 download card. And there's the back of that record. Any of you out there who know anything about Antibalas, they're very much modeled after early mid-70s funk groups in terms of their art and their concepts. Vocalist called Zap Mama, who I first heard about a few years ago, is on this album. And now we are going to unbox this by hand, because it's really the best way. It's not really unboxing. I'm not taking it out of a box. I'm just removing the plastic, but I like to call it an unboxing. So, there's the open vinyl. And let me take the vinyl out so you can see the label. Here's the official Daptone album download card. This has got a lyric guide with some great negative print pictures on it. Another great negative print picture on it. This is on a subsidiary called Afro Sound. I can tell you I do not have anything else on that label. So what I am going to do now is put this album back into its jacket, and I am going to take it upstairs and I am going to listen to it. And after that, I will be back, and there'll be more to tell. Antibalas paint a really beautiful musical picture with this particular album. And, you know, one thing about groups like Antibalas or any Afro-Latin jazz funk group that has any relation to the 70s and the message music, I call it people music, after the Herbie Hancock song, is they're able to relate imagery in their music with imagery on their cover art. This cover art right here is exactly the kind of images that come to my mind when I hear this album. The song Gold Rush is this Afro-futurist funk, jazz, fusion sound. And Hook and Crook really has the flavor of Fela Kuti's Africa 70, especially the way the rhythm guitar is used. You know, very much like Jimmy Nolan and James Brown, that rhythmic chicken scratch sound is very prominent on that. The second part of the album on the B-side is a suite called Tombstone, which has Zap Mama. You know, the first two movements of that, you know, they start out in kind of a samba salsa mode, and then they gradually speed up into this sort of lightly dub reggae jazz influenced funk groove. So, you know, you hear a lot of different musics that come from the African diaspora here. You hear a little reggae, you know, you hear a little juju, there's some flat out Afro pop in there, funk, Afro jazz, and you know, it's all African related. I have to particularly give Martin Perna on baritone sax takes some really spirited, John Coltrane style solos on here that, speak to somewhere that inside you that may not even have a name. Somewhere inside what some people call a soul. And when I listen to this album and the tribalism and the Afrocentricity involved in it, I think of the original funk bands of the 70s, Kool and the Gang, Mandrill, who I mentioned earlier, Earth, Wind and Fire, War, how all of them didn't just start out as a funk band. They all came from roots very similar to Antibalas here. And, if Antibalas keep developing the way they are and progress into the future and don't just stay doing this exact same type of material, which I can't hear them doing, I could hear them doing some amazing funk because, all the sounds that this group represent all mix and marinate together to create funkiness, and I can see them sustaining that sound, and I'm just hoping to hear more from Antibalas in the future, and that they do, because, one of the issues I have with Daptone, and I understand it's kind of what they stand for, is that a lot of their acts have a retro sound, like the Dap Kings, and they kind of stick with that sound. The late Charles Bradley, R.I.P. Charles Bradley, he didn't get a chance to go further than his mid-60s James Brown-oriented sound, but and to a certain degree, the same thing happens with the Budos Band, another group over on Daptone. They don't always tend to adapt. They tend to stay with their type of retro sound. And I'm hoping, with the sound I hear from Antibalas, that this group progresses and doesn't just stick with that retro-oriented approach that most of the Daptone acts have. They can progress, and they can set a new future for Daptone. We lost Charles Bradley and Sharon Jones within the past year, and that's sad. It seems like sort of an ending for the old Daptone. So I'm hoping that Antibalas can take Daptone into a future, and this was described as an Afrofuturist project, and this seems to be going a whole new way. So, I'm hoping that, hey, with Antibalas, the Budos Band, and the Dap Kings still there, Daptone is going to develop into a label that makes perhaps some of the greatest futurist funk soul music of the late 2010s and into the 2020s. I look forward to hearing that. This could be the start of a new funk revival, if emphasis is put on it. So, if you don't have this album, go out and check it out. Listen to it on YouTube or whatever. And if you do have it, think of it in another context, because there's a lot on this album, and there's a lot that might happen because of it. Enjoy your music. Peace to you all.